Step into a 14th century European village where the church's bell tolls, casting a shadow over every whispered desire and stolen glance. It's around 1350 and sex is a paradox, both a sacred duty and a sinful lure governed by the Catholic Church's iron grip. In this world of candlelit huts and feudal vows, beliefs about intimacy weave a complex tapestry of divine rules, societal shame, and folk myths. The air hums with the scent of straw and incense, but beneath the surface, human nature wrestles with rigid doctrine, shaping lives from peasant beds to noble halls. What did people believe about sex, and how did these ideas control their world? Join us as we unravel this hidden history where love, lust, and fear collide. Share your thoughts. Where are you reading from, and what's the vibe? Drop a comment to join our curious crew. If this dive into medieval passions sparks your interest, a like or share keeps these stories alive. Now, venture into a time where every touch was judged and discover the beliefs that bound body and soul in the Middle Ages. The evening bell tolls from the stone church at the heart of a 14th century European village, its somber chime echoing across thatched huts and muddy paths. It's around 1350, and as a peasant, merchant or noblewoman, you kneel in your dimly lit home, the flicker of a rushlight casting shadows on the wattle walls, your thoughts shaped by the Catholic Church's teachings on sex, a force both sacred and perilous. The air carries the scent of damp straw and faint incense, but beneath the village's quiet, a tension simmers between divine doctrine and human desire. Sex in this world is a paradox, a God-given duty for procreation within marriage, yet a dangerous temptation that risks eternal damnation. This opening segment introduces the Church's dominant role in shaping medieval beliefs about sexuality, exploring its rigid rules, moral teachings, and the clash between spiritual ideals and earthly passions, setting the stage for a society where every intimate act was judged by the weight of divine authority. The Catholic Church was the unchallenged arbiter of morality in medieval Europe, its influence permeating every aspect of life, from the lord's manor to the peasant's hearth. Sex, as an act of the body, was under its strict scrutiny, framed as a gift from God but fraught with peril. The Church taught that sex was permissible only within marriage, its sole purpose to produce children for God's kingdom. Any deviation, lustful thoughts, extramarital acts, or non-procreative practices was sin, a rebellion against divine order. As a peasant, you heard this in Sunday sermons, the priest's voice warning of hellfire, his words shaping your understanding of your own desires. A married couple, lying on a straw pallet in a one-room hut, might couple to fulfill their duty, but the Church's rules lingered, dictating when and how their act was holy. Marriage was the only sanctioned space for sex, a sacrament binding man and woman under God's law. The Church viewed it as a contract, not just of love but of obligation, with procreation as its core. You, as a peasant wife, were expected to bear children, your fertility a sign of divine favor, your barrenness a potential curse. A couple might consummate their marriage in a single night, the act taking minutes but laden with meaning, its success measured in heirs. The Church's decretals, like those of Gratian, outlined strict guidelines. Sex was for procreation, not pleasure, and any act seeking only desire was sinful. You've whispered prayers before lying with your spouse, the priest's warnings echoing, your heart torn between duty and the warmth of human touch. The Church's calendar further controlled sexual behavior, its holy days and seasons dictating abstinence. Lent, Advent, and feast days, nearly half the year, were times of fasting and celibacy, sex forbidden to honor God. A peasant couple, working fields a mile away in 20 minutes, might long for closeness after a day's toil, but the Church's rules barred them, their straw bed a place of restraint. Sundays too were off limits, the Sabbath reserved for prayer, not flesh. You've counted days, waiting for a permitted night, the Church's rhythm shaping your life as surely as the seasons. Violating these rules risked penance, prayers, fasting, or alms. Or worse, accusations of heresy, the priest's eye ever watchful in a village where secrets were hard to keep. The concept of sin was central, lust branded as one of the 7 deadly sins, its pull a constant threat to salvation. The church taught that sexual desire, even within marriage, could be sinful if it strayed from procreation. A merchant traveling 5 miles to a market in 2 hours might confess lustful thoughts about a tavern maid, his penance a week of fasting, his soul cleansed through suffering. You've knelt in church, the cold stone biting your knees, confessing a fleeting desire, the priest's absolution a relief but a reminder of your frailty. The church's penitentials, like those of Burchard of Worms, listed punishments for sexual sins: 3 years penance for adultery, 7 for sodomy, making every act a moral calculation, your heart heavy with fear of divine judgment. Women bore the brunt of these teachings, their sexuality tied to Eve's original sin. The church viewed women as temptresses, their bodies a lure to men's downfall. As a woman, your every action, walking a half-mile to a well in 10 minutes, your kirtle swaying, was watched, your chastity a measure of honor. A wife's duty was to submit, her pleasure secondary, her role to bear children. A noble woman married to secure alliances might lie with her husband in a curtained bed, the act a political necessity, her desires irrelevant. You felt the weight of sermons, the priest's voice blaming women for lust, your steps cautious to avoid gossip, your body a battleground of divine and earthly expectations. Men, too, were bound by the church's rules, though with more leniency. As a man, your role was to lead, your sexuality a tool for lineage, but lust was a sin you confessed often. A peasant husband working fields 2 miles away in 40 minutes might seek his wife's embrace, but the church demanded restraint, pleasure secondary to duty. Clergy sworn to celibacy faced harsher scrutiny. A priest caught with a lover faced excommunication. Though many kept secret concubines in villages, their sins whispered in alehouses. You've seen men shamed, their penance public, their status fragile despite their authority. The church's rules a constant shadow over their desires. Theology shaped these beliefs, drawing from scripture and church fathers like Augustine, who saw sex as tainted by original sin. His writings taught that even marital sex, if driven by lust, was venial sin, forgivable but shameful. You've heard these ideas in church, the priest quoting Genesis or Paul, urging chastity, your mind wrestling with the idea that desire, even for your spouse, could damn you. Scholastics like Thomas Aquinas refined these views, arguing sex was natural but only for procreation, pleasure a dangerous byproduct. These teachings, read in monasteries or preached in villages, made you question every touch, your heart torn between nature and doctrine, your life a balance of fear and longing. The church's influence reached beyond the spiritual shaping laws and customs. Canon law governed marriage, requiring consent and witnesses, but also set punishments for sexual deviance. A peasant caught in adultery, a clandestine meeting a mile away in 30 minutes, faced public penance or fines, their shame displayed in the churchyard. Towns enforced curfews, a half-mile walk through alleys in 15 minutes, risky if caught by watchmen who linked night with sin. You've avoided dark paths, knowing a stray glance could spark accusation. The church's laws are net around your life, its priests and bailiffs ever watchful for signs of moral lapse. The tension between divine rules and earthly desires was palpable, human nature straining against doctrine. In villages, couples whispered of love in haylofts, their acts defying the church's calendar. A stolen moment, risking penance, but driven by need. A merchant, sharing ale in a tavern a mile away in 20 minutes, might flirt with a widow, his heart racing despite the priest's warnings. You've felt this pull, your body craving closeness, your soul fearing judgment, each act a negotiation with God. The church's grip was tight, but human desire, love, lust, or comfort found cracks, your life a dance between restraint and rebellion. The sensory world of this struggle was vivid, tying belief to daily life. The church's stone walls, cold under your knees, smelled of wax and incense, its sermons a hum of warning. Your hut, lit by a rushlight, carried the scent of straw and sweat, your spouse's touch a warmth against the church's chill. The village hummed with gossip, a woman's glance at a market, a man's late-night walk, each sound a thread in the web of scrutiny. Your clothes, woolen and rough, clung to your skin, your hands calloused from work, your heart heavy with sermons heard a mile away in church. The night, starlit or dark, framed your desires, each moment a balance of faith and flesh. The fragility of this world was stark, each act weighed by divine and social eyes. A misstep, adultery, a lustful thought, could bring penance, shaming, or exile, your family suffering for your sin. You've seen neighbors whipped, their affairs exposed, their lives broken by a single night. Illness, tied to sin in the church's view, struck adulterers or the lustful, a fever seen as God's wrath. Yet desire persisted, your heart defying doctrine, your steps to church or bed a testament to human will. The village, bound by faith, lived in this tension, its people torn between body and soul, their lives shaped by the church's unyielding grip. The night deepens, and you settle by your hearth, the village quiet, the church's bell silent. The Catholic Church's rules on sex, marriage, procreation, sin, shaped every touch, its teachings a weight as real as the straw beneath you. Your life, a weave of duty and desire, balanced fear of God with human longing, each act a step in a delicate dance. For now you rest, the fire's glow a refuge, your heart holding both faith and passion, your world a testament to the struggle between divine rules and earthly desires in a time when every intimacy was a prayer or a peril. The morning sun rises over a 14th century European village, its golden light spilling across thatched roofs and muddy paths, warming the straw pallet where you lie beside your spouse in a cramped wattle and daub hut. It's around 1350, and as a peasant, artisan or noble, you live under the Catholic Church's iron rule over sexuality, where every act is weighed by divine judgment, as explored in the broader tension between doctrine and desire. Now, as you rise to face the day's labour, perhaps a 1-mile walk to fields in 20 minutes, the Church's teachings on marriage and procreation shape your most intimate moments, casting sex as a sacred duty within the marital bed, its sole purpose to create life. The air carries the scent of damp earth and faint hearth smoke, but within your home, the Church's voice echoes, dictating the when, how, and why of your union. This segment delves into the medieval belief that sex was sanctified only for procreation within marriage, exploring the Church's strict rules, the expectations of couples, and the pressures of producing heirs, revealing a world where intimacy was a divine obligation. The Church taught that marriage was a holy sacrament, its primary function to produce children for God's kingdom. Sex outside this purpose, driven by pleasure or lust, was sinful, even within the marital bond. As a peasant couple, you share a single room with your children, your intimacy confined to fleeting moments after dark, the act brief but laden with purpose. The Church's decretals, like those of Pope Gregory IX, insisted that sex must aim for conception, any deviation a venial sin requiring confession. You've whispered prayers before lying together, the priest's words from a sermon a mile away in church lingering, urging you to focus on duty, not desire. A typical act lasting minutes on a straw mattress was a physical union, but also a spiritual one. Your heart mindful of God's command to be fruitful and multiply. Marital sex was governed by a rigid calendar, the Church designating specific times as permissible or forbidden. Lent, Advent, and major feast days, roughly 150 days a year, required abstinence, sex seen as defiling sacred periods. A couple might abstain for weeks, their longing suppressed to honor God, their bed a place of restraint. Sundays, too, were off-limits, the Sabbath reserved for prayer, not flesh. You've counted days, waiting for a permitted night, a half-mile walk to church in 10 minutes, reinforcing the priest's warnings. Violating these rules risked penance, fasting, prayers, or alms, Or accusations of impiety, the village gossip swift to judge a couple's lapse, their whispers heard at the well a quarter-mile away in 5 minutes. Procreation was the cornerstone of these beliefs, children seen as a blessing and a duty. As a peasant wife, your worth was tied to fertility, each pregnancy a sign of divine favor, each barren year a source of shame. A noblewoman married to secure alliances faced even greater pressure, her heirs vital to lineage and power. A couple might couple monthly, hoping for conception, the act taking minutes but its outcome watched by family and lord. The church taught that children were God's gift, their absence a potential curse, prompting prayers or pilgrimages, a 10-mile trek to a shrine in 5 hours to seek fertility. You've knelt in church, the cold stone under your knees, praying for a child, the priest's blessing a mile away, a faint hope against barrenness. The church's rules extended to the act itself, prescribing positions and intentions to ensure procreation. The missionary position, man above, woman below, was deemed natural, aligning with God's design for conception. Other positions, seen as indulgent or unnatural, were frowned upon, risking penance if confessed. You've heard priests condemn improper acts, their voices echoing in a village church, the sermon shaping your choices in the dark. Foreplay or prolonged pleasure was suspect, the church urging brevity to avoid lust, a couple's intimacy, a careful balance of duty and restraint. As an artisan, sharing a bed in a town's timber house, you've followed these rules, your act swift, your mind on God, the church's gaze ever present. Consent was a key tenet, the church requiring mutual agreement for marriage and its consummation. Canon law demanded that both spouses freely enter the union, their vows exchanged before a priest a mile away in a 20-minute walk. Yet within marriage, consent was unequal, the husband's authority overriding the wife's reluctance. As a wife, you were expected to yield, your refusal a sin, though forcing sex was frowned upon by theologians like Aquinas. A noblewoman might resist, her bed a site of duty, not desire, her husband's demands backed by law. You felt this pressure, your heart torn between obligation and choice, the church's rules a chain around your body, your intimacy shaped by divine and marital law. The church also regulated frequency, warning against excess even in marriage. Too frequent sex, even for procreation, was seen as gluttony, a sin of indulgence. A peasant couple laboring in fields 2 miles away in 40 minutes might couple weekly, their energy sapped by toil, their act brief to avoid sin. Nobles with more leisure faced the same rules, their curtained beds no shield from the church's scrutiny. You've confessed to a priest, a half-mile walk in 10 minutes, admitting to excessive desire, your penance a day's fasting, your heart heavy with guilt. The church's penitentials listed punishments, 3 days penance for frequent sex, making every act a calculation, your intimacy a balance of need and restraint. Impotence or infertility was a crisis, the church viewing it as a divine test or punishment. A husband unable to consummate, perhaps due to age or illness, could seek annulment, the marriage void if no heirs were possible. A wife, barren after years, faced blame, her body scrutinized by midwives or priests. You've heard of couples walking 5 miles to a healer in 2 hours, seeking herbs or prayers, their desperation whispered in villages. The church offered rituals, blessings or masses to aid fertility, but failure brought shame, a woman's worth tied to motherhood. You've seen neighbors shunned their childless hut a mark of failure, their steps to church heavy with judgment. Theology underpinned these rules, rooted in scripture and church fathers. Genesis urged procreation, while Paul's letters praised chastity, sex a concession to human weakness. Augustine, whose writings shaped medieval thought, argued that marital sex was lawful only for children, pleasure a taint to confess. You've heard these ideas in sermons, the priest's voice a mile away urging restraint, your mind wrestling with the idea that desire could damn you. Scholastics like Albertus Magnus refined these views, teaching that sex must serve God's plan, any deviation a sin. These doctrines, preached in churches or copied in monasteries, made you question every embrace, your heart torn between nature and faith. Social pressures reinforced the church's rules, villages and towns enforcing conformity. A couple, seen as overly affectionate, a kiss at a market a mile away, faced gossip, their piety questioned. A wife refusing her husband risked accusations of defiance, her neighbors whispering at the well. You've avoided lingering glances, your steps to church or market cautious, knowing a stray word could spark scandal. Nobles, too, were watched, their heirs vital to alliances, their private acts public concern. A noblewoman's failure to conceive after a marriage sealed in a castle 5 miles away brought whispers of curses, her bed a stage for dynastic hopes. The sensory world of this life was vivid, tying belief to daily reality. The church's wooden pews a mile away smelled of wax and damp stone, its sermons a hum of divine lore. Your hut, lit by a flickering rushlight, carried the scent of straw and sweat, your spouse's touch a warmth against the church's cold rules. The village buzzed with chatter, a neighbor's pregnancy, a couple's lapse, each sound a thread in the web of scrutiny. Your clothes, coarse wool, clung to your skin, your hands calloused from work, your heart heavy with sermons. The night, quiet or stormy, framed your intimacy, each moment a balance of duty and desire, each act a step in God's plan. The fragility of this world was stark, each act weighed by divine and social eyes. A barren marriage could lead to annulment, a couple's bond broken, their shame public. A wife's refusal or a husband's excess brought penance, their hut a stage for gossip. You've seen couples shamed, their intimacy exposed in church, their lives harder for defying doctrine. Illness, tied to sin, struck the lustful, a fever seen as God's wrath. Yet human nature persisted, your heart defying rules, your bed a refuge from judgment. The village, bound by faith, lived in this tension, its people torn between body and soul, their lives shaped by the church's unyielding voice. The morning brightens, and you step outside, the village stirring, the church's bell a distant call. The church's rules on marriage and procreation, sex as a sacred duty, pleasure a sin, shaped every embrace, its teachings a weight as real as the fields you work. Your life, a weave of duty and longing, balanced divine command with human need, each act a step in a delicate dance. For now, you walk to the fields, the sun warm, the path clear, your world a testament to the struggle between sanctified purpose and earthly passion, in a time when every intimacy was a prayer for life. The midday sun climbs high over a 14th century European village, its light filtering through the dust of a well-trodden path as you walk a half-mile to the market, your basket heavy with eggs. It's around 1350, and as a peasant, artisan or noble, you live under the Catholic Church's rigid doctrine, where sex is sanctified only for procreation within marriage, as explored in the strict rules governing marital intimacy. Now, as you pass the stone church, its shadow a reminder of divine scrutiny, the church's condemnation of lust and forbidden acts looms large, casting a pall over desires that stray from its narrow path. The air hums with the scent of fresh bread and distant hay, but beneath the village's bustle, fear of sin and shame shapes every thought of intimacy. This segment delves into the medieval belief that non-procreative sex, extramarital affairs, homosexuality, masturbation, and other unnatural acts was a grave sin, exploring the church's prohibitions, societal stigma, and harsh punishments that enforced these rules, revealing a world where desire was a perilous temptation. The church viewed lust as a deadly sin, a fire that could consume the soul if not bound by procreation. Any sexual act outside marriage or not aimed at conception was a rebellion against God's design, condemned in sermons heard a mile away in church, a 20-minute walk. Extramarital affairs, whether a stolen moment in a barn or a liaison in a town's alley, were grave sins, branded as adultery. A peasant meeting a lover a mile away in 30 minutes risked severe penance, fasting for a year or public shaming if caught. You've whispered confessions in church, the priest's voice stern, your heart heavy with fear of hellfire. The church's penitentials, like those of Theodore of Tarsus, prescribed 7 years' penance for adultery, each act a stain on your soul, the village's gossip a second punishment. Homosexuality was even more harshly condemned, labeled as sodomy, a sin against nature. The Church, drawing from Leviticus and Augustine, saw same-sex acts as a perversion, punishable by excommunication or death. In a village, 2 men meeting secretly in a forest a mile away, a 30-minute trek, faced burning at the stake if discovered, their names erased from the community. You've heard whispers of such acts, the priest's sermons a mile away decrying them, urging vigilance. Women too were condemned, though less often named, their acts hidden in the shadows of convents or homes. The stigma was crushing, a single rumor destroying lives. Your steps to church cautious to avoid suspicion, your heart wary of any forbidden glance. Masturbation, though rarely named openly, was another forbidden act, seen as a waste of seed and a surrender to lust. The Church taught that it defiled the body, a sin requiring confession and penance, 3 weeks fasting or prayers. A young man alone in his hut might confess this in church, a half-mile walk in 10 minutes, his shame private but heavy, the priest's absolution a fleeting relief. You've heard sermons warning of spiritual corruption, the priest's voice echoing through the village, making every private moment a battle with guilt. Women too faced this stigma. Though their acts were less discussed, their confessions whispered to avoid scandal. The Church's rules made even solitary desire a sin, your thoughts policed as closely as your actions. Other unnatural acts, like oral or anal sex, even within marriage, were condemned as deviations from procreation. The Church insisted on the missionary position, any variation seen as indulgent, risking penance. A couple, experimenting in their bed, might confess to a priest a mile away, their act a venial sin but shameful, their penance a day's fasting. You felt this scrutiny, your intimacy restrained, the Church's teachings a shadow over your straw palate. Penitentials listed punishments, 40 days penance for such acts, making every choice a moral risk, your heart torn between desire and doctrine. The village, quick to gossip, amplified this shame, a neighbor's whisper at the well a quarter-mile away spreading judgment. Adultery was a public scandal, its consequences severe for both men and women, though women bore harsher judgment. A peasant woman meeting a lover in a hayloft a half-mile away in 10 minutes faced public penance, standing in church in a white sheet, or banishment if the affair persisted. Her husband, if cuckolded, lost honor, his status diminished in the village's eyes. Men, too, faced punishment. A merchant caught with a tavern maid a mile away in 20 minutes fined or flogged, his trade suffering from gossip. You've seen couples shamed, their names whispered at markets, their lives harder for a single lapse. The Church's rules were both spiritual and temporal, as blending divine and earthly justice. Canon law prescribed penance for sexual sins, fasting, alms, or pilgrimages, but secular courts, under the Lord's authority, added fines or imprisonment. A peasant adulterer, caught after a 1-mile tryst in 30 minutes, might pay a sack of grain, a burden that starved their family. In towns, a woman accused of sodomy or prostitution, walking a half-mile through alleys in 15 minutes, faced the stocks, her shame displayed to jeering crowds. You've seen neighbors in the churchyard, their heads bowed, their penance a public spectacle, the Lord's bailiff and priest united in enforcing morality. Exile or execution awaited the worst offenders, their lives erased for defying God's law. The Church's teachings were rooted in scripture and tradition, amplifying the fear of sin. Leviticus condemned adultery and sodomy, while Paul's letters urged purity, sex a concession to weakness. Augustine argued that lust, even in marriage, tainted the soul, his writings shaping sermons heard a mile away. Scholastics like Peter Lombard reinforced this, teaching that sexual pleasure must serve procreation, any deviation a sin. You've knelt in church, the cold stone under your knees, the priest's words a warning against desire, your mind wrestling with guilt. These doctrines, copied in monasteries or preached in villages, made every act a moral tightrope, your heart fearing divine wrath with every forbidden thought. Social stigma was a powerful enforcer, villages and towns quick to judge. A woman's glance at a market, a mile away in 20 minutes, sparked rumors of looseness, her chastity questioned. A man, lingering in a tavern a half-mile away, faced whispers of lechery, his piety doubted. You've avoided such glances, your steps to church or well cautious, knowing a stray word could ruin you. Nobles, too, were watched, their affairs, a tryst in a castle 5 miles away, gossip for servants, their honour tied to discretion. The community's eyes were as sharp as the church's, their chatter at wells or markets a net around your life, each rumour a thread of shame. Gender roles intensified this stigma, women bearing the brunt as daughters of Eve. The church taught that women tempted men, their sexuality a danger to be controlled. A wife's affair, discovered after a 1-mile walk to a lover in 30 minutes, brought harsher punishment than her husband's, her body blamed for leading him astray. Unmarried women, flirting at a village dance, faced accusations of wantonness, their futures marred. You felt this weight, your kirtle modest, your eyes downcast at the market, the priest's sermons a mile away, branding women as snares. Men, though judged, had more leniency, their sins seen as weakness, not malice, their authority shielding them from the worst of shame. The church's influence extended to law, shaping secular justice. Lords and town councils, guided by canon law, punished sexual sins to maintain order. A peasant caught in a barn, a half-mile away in 10 minutes, faced a fine or flogging, their lord enforcing God's will. In towns, prostitutes working in alleys a quarter-mile away were jailed or whipped, their trade tolerated but condemned. You've seen such women, their faces marked by shame, their lives harder for defying norms. The church's penitentials, like those of Burchard, listed penalties: 7 years for sodomy, 3 for adultery, making every act a risk, your life a balance of desire and fear. The sensory world of this struggle was vivid, tying sin to daily life. The church, a mile away, smelled of wax and damp stone, its sermons a hum of warning. Your hut, lit by a rushlight, carried the scent of straw and sweat, your thoughts of desire a secret kept from neighbours. The village buzzed with gossip, a woman's affair, a man's lapse, each sound a thread of judgment. Your clothes, rough wool, clung to your skin, your hands calloused from work, your heart heavy with sermons. The night, quiet or stormy, framed your temptations, each moment a battle with shame, each act a risk of exposure in a community quick to judge. The fragility of this world was stark, each sin a potential ruin. A whispered affair could lead to exile, a family's honour lost, their livelihood threatened. You've seen neighbours shunned, their barns empty, their children hungry for a parent's laps. Illness, tied to sin, struck the guilty, a fever seen as God's punishment. Yet desire persisted, your heart-defying doctrine, your thoughts a rebellion against shame. The village, bound by faith and fear, lived in this tension, its people torn between body and soul, their lives shaped by the church's condemnation of lust. The day wears on, and you return from the market, the village settling, the church's shadow long. The church's rules on sin, adultery, sodomy, masturbation, made every desire a danger, its punishments a weight as real as the basket you carry. Your life a weave of fear and longing, balanced divine wrath with human need, each thought a step in a perilous dance. For now you rest, the hearth's glow a refuge, your heart holding both guilt and passion, your world a testament to the struggle between sin and shame in a time when every desire was a peril to the soul. The afternoon sun bathes a 14th century European village in a warm glow, its rays glinting off the muddy path as you tread a quarter-mile to the well, your bucket swinging, your steps measured to avoid gossiping eyes. It's around 1350, and as a peasant, artisan, or noblewoman, you live under the Catholic Church's rigid doctrine where sex outside procreation is a sin laden with shame and punishment, as explored in the prohibitions against lustful acts. Now, as you pass neighbours whispering near the church, their glances sharp, you feel the weight of gender roles and feudal hierarchies that shape not just your labour, but your most intimate moments. The air carries the scent of fresh-turned earth and faint incense, but beneath the village's hum, sex is a mirror of power, reflecting control over bodies and status. This segment examines how medieval beliefs about sex reinforce gender and social hierarchies, with men holding authority over women's sexuality and intimacy tied to obedience and honor, revealing a world where every act was a marker of place and power. The feudal system structured society into rigid tiers: lords, clergy, merchants, peasants, and sex was a key arena where these hierarchies played out. Men, as heads of households or manors, held authority over women's bodies, their dominance rooted in church teachings and secular law. As a peasant wife, your sexuality was your husband's domain, your duty to submit, reinforced by sermons heard a mile away in church, a 20-minute walk. A noblewoman married to seal alliances lay in a curtained bed in a castle 5 miles away, her body a tool for lineage, her consent secondary to dynastic needs. You've felt this control, your choices limited, your intimacy shaped by a husband's will. The church's rules a chain linking your body to his authority. Women's sexuality was tightly controlled, their chastity a measure of family honor. The church, drawing from Eve's sin, cast women as temptresses, their desires dangerous unless bound by marriage. A peasant woman fetching water a half-mile away in 10 minutes kept her eyes downcast, her kirtle modest, knowing a lingering glance could spark accusations of wantonness. An unmarried daughter, flirting at a village dance a mile away in 20 minutes, risked her family's reputation, her marriage prospects ruined by gossip. You've avoided such glances, your steps cautious, the priest's warnings about women's wiles echoing, your chastity a currency that protected or imperiled your kin's standing in the village. Men, while also subject to church rules, held greater freedom, their sexuality seen as a natural force to be disciplined, not suppressed. A peasant husband working fields 2 miles away in 40 minutes was expected to sire heirs, his authority over his wife's body unquestioned. A merchant, traveling 10 miles to a market in 4 hours, might visit a tavern, his dalliances tolerated as long as they were discreet, his status shielding him from the worst of shame. You've seen men boast in alehouses, their sins confessed lightly a half-mile away in church, their power allowing leniency where women faced scorn. The church's double standard, rooted in scripture like Paul's letters, made men's lapses weaknesses, women's sins crimes. Marriage was the primary stage for these gender roles, sex a duty where men led and women followed. Canon law required mutual consent for marriage, but within it, a wife's refusal was sinful, her body owed to her husband. A peasant couple sharing a straw pallet might couple weekly, the act brief, but his decision, her submission expected. A noblewoman, in a marriage arranged in a manor 5 miles away, lay with her husband to secure heirs, her desires irrelevant, her role to obey. You felt this imbalance, your heart longing for affection but bound by duty. The church's teachings a mile away, reinforcing your place, your body a vessel for his lineage, not your own will. Adultery exposed this hierarchy starkly, women facing harsher consequences. A wife caught with a lover in a barn a half-mile away in 10 minutes risked public shaming, standing in church in a white sheet, or banishment, her family's honor lost. Her husband, though shamed, kept his authority, his punishment lighter, a fine or penance. A man's affair, perhaps with a maid a mile away in 20 minutes, brought gossip but rarely ruin, his status intact. You've seen women shunned, their huts avoided, their children mocked, while men walked freely, the village's judgment falling heavier on the weaker sex, their sins a stain on the social order. Prostitution, though condemned, was tolerated for men, revealing their sexual privilege. In towns, women worked in alleys a quarter-mile away in 5 minutes, their trade a sin but a release for male desire, the church grudgingly accepting it to prevent worse sins like sodomy. A merchant might visit such a woman, his coin-buying discretion, his act confessed lightly in church. As a woman, you've heard whispers of these fallen women, their lives marked by shame, their bodies a commodity men could access without loss of status. The church's penitentials prescribed penance, 3 years for frequenting prostitutes, But men's visits were rarely punished, their power a shield against judgment. Noble women, despite their status, were equally bound, their sexuality a tool for alliances. A lady, married in a castle 10 miles away in a day's travel, was expected to produce heirs, her body a bridge between families. Her chastity was guarded, her affairs, if any, hidden to avoid scandal, a lover's visit a mile away risking exile or worse. You've heard of noble women cloistered, their lives controlled by lords or husbands, their desires suppressed for dynastic honor. Their status offered luxury, a curtained bed, not a straw pallet, but no freedom. Their sexuality a pawn in feudal politics, their obedience a mirror of the church's ideals. The church reinforced these roles through doctrine, teaching that men were rational, women emotional, their sexuality a danger to be tamed. Augustine argued women's bodies tempted men, their chastity a duty to God and husband. Sermons, heard a mile away in church, urged women to modesty, their kirtles long, their hair covered. You've dressed carefully, your steps to the market cautious, knowing a stray glance could brand you a temptress. Men were urged to restraint, but their lapses were forgiven, their authority upheld by scripture like Genesis, which placed Adam over Eve. These teachings, preached in villages or copied in monasteries, made women's sexuality a burden, their every act watched by divine and human eyes. Secular law, guided by the church, cemented these hierarchies. Lords and town councils punished women's sexual sins. Adultery, prostitution, more harshly, a woman's tryst a mile away leading to fines or the stocks. Men faced penalties, a fine for a tavern dalliance a half-mile away, but rarely lost status. You've seen women in the churchyard, their heads bowed, their shame public, while men paid coin and walked free. Canon law allowed husbands to discipline wives, their authority backed by the Lord's court, a wife's refusal a sin, her body his property. This legal double standard, rooted in feudal power, made women's sexuality a site of control, their honor tied to submission. Social customs amplified this control, villages enforcing gender roles through gossip and exclusion. A woman, seen with a man at a market a mile away, faced whispers, her family's honor tarnished. A man's boasts in an alehouse a half-mile away were laughed off, his status secure. You've avoided markets on feast days, your steps measured to dodge scrutiny, knowing a rumor could ruin your marriage prospects or your kin's standing. Nobles too were watched, their servants gossiping about a lady's lover, their honor fragile despite their wealth. The community's eyes, sharp as a priest's, made every act a public affair, your life a stage for judgment. The sensory world of this hierarchy was vivid, tying sex to power. The church, a mile away, smelled of wax and stone, its sermons a hum of male authority. Your hut, lit by a rushlight, carried the scent of straw and sweat, your spouse's touch a duty, not a choice. The village buzzed with chatter, a woman's affair, a man's boast, each sound a thread of control. Your clothes, modest wool, clung to your skin, your hands calloused from work, your heart heavy with expectations. The day, bright or cloudy, framed your role, each step to well or mark it a reminder of your place, each glance a risk of shame. The fragility of this world was stark, each act a potential ruin. A woman's lapse, an affair a half-mile away, could lead to exile, her family shunned. A man's sin, confessed in church, brought lighter penance, his status intact. You've seen women cast out, their huts empty, their children scorned, while men walked free. Illness, tied to sin, struck the disobedient, a fever seen as God's wrath. Yet desire persisted, your heart defying control, your body a site of resistance. The village, bound by hierarchy, lived in this tension, its people torn between obedience and longing, their lives shaped by the power that governed sex. The afternoon fades and you return from the well, the village settling, the church's shadow long. The hierarchies of gender and status, men over women, lords over peasants, made sex a reflection of power, its rules a weight as real as the bucket you carry. Your life, a weave of duty and desire, balanced submission with human need, each act a step in a delicate dance. For now, you rest, the hearth's glow a refuge, your heart holding both obedience and passion, your world a testament to the struggle between hierarchy and humanity in a time when every intimacy was a marker of place. The twilight settles over a 14th century European village, its soft glow bathing the thatched huts and winding paths as you sit by your hearth, the fire's warmth a quiet comfort after a day's toil. It's around 1350, and as a peasant, artisan, or noble, you've lived under the Catholic Church's rigid doctrines, where sex was a sacred duty within marriage, a sin if driven by lust, and a mirror of gender and feudal hierarchies, as explored in the rules, punishments, and power dynamics that shaped intimacy. Now, as the village quiets, the air thick with the scent of cooling earth and distant wood smoke, you reflect on how these beliefs about sex wove the fabric of medieval society, binding communities, shaping laws, and fueling tensions between body and soul. This concluding segment explores the lasting impact of these medieval attitudes on society, connecting them to modern views on sexuality, gender, and morality, and honoring the resilience of those who navigated desire under divine scrutiny, closing this tale with a gentle nod to their enduring legacy. Medieval beliefs about sex, rooted in the Church's teachings, were a cornerstone of social order, their influence reaching every corner of life. The doctrine that sex was for procreation within marriage, preached in churches a mile away in a 20-minute walk, kept families focused on children, ensuring labor for fields and heirs for manors. A peasant couple, coupling on a straw pallet, saw their act as a duty to God and community, their children, born after months of hope, vital to the village's survival. This belief strengthened kinship ties, villages bound by shared labor, a 2-mile trek to a mill in 40 minutes, a collective effort to feed families. The Church's rules, though restrictive, gave structure, each birth a celebration, each barren year a shared sorrow, whispered at the well a quarter-mile away. The condemnation of lust, heard in sermons a half-mile from home, shaped moral behavior, fostering a culture of restraint. Adultery, homosexuality, or masturbation, sins punished with fasting or exile, kept individuals wary, their desires checked by fear of divine wrath. A merchant confessing a tavern dalliance a mile away in 20 minutes fasted to cleanse his soul, his restraint reinforcing community standards. This fear of sin, though oppressive, created cohesion, villages united against moral lapses, their gossip a tool to enforce piety. You've felt this pressure, your heart cautious, your steps to church measured to avoid scandal, the community's eyes as sharp as the priest's. Gender hierarchies, with men holding authority over women's bodies, cemented social roles, sex a reflection of power. A wife, submitting to her husband in a hut, upheld the Church's view of male dominance, her role fixed by sermons heard a mile away. A noblewoman lying in a castle 5 miles distant bore heirs to secure alliances, her body a tool of feudal politics. These roles, though rigid, ensured stability, families structured by clear duties, women's chastity guarding honor, men's authority maintaining order. You've navigated this hierarchy, your kirtle modest, your glances guarded at markets, knowing a misstep could unravel your family's place in the village's web. Laws shaped by the Church enforced these beliefs, blending divine and secular justice. Canon law punished adultery with penance, a year's fasting for a tryst a half-mile away, while lords fined or flogged offenders, their courts a mile from home. Prostitution, tolerated but condemned, saw women whipped in town squares, a quarter-mile walk in 5 minutes, their shame public. These punishments, harsh but consistent, maintained order, discouraging deviance while reinforcing the Church's authority. You've seen neighbors shamed, their heads bowed in church, their fines paid in grain. The law a constant reminder that sex was not private but a communal concern, its rules binding village and manor alike. The economy, too, felt the impact of these beliefs, sex tied to labor and lineage. Marriage, producing children, ensured workers for fields a mile away, their harvest feeding villages. A peasant family with 5 children tilled more land, their 2-mile treks to fields in 40 minutes vital to the Lord's wealth. Nobles securing heirs in marriages arranged 10 miles away maintained dynasties, their wealth preserved through legitimate offspring. Prostitution, though sinful, supported trade in towns, merchants spending coin in alleys a quarter-mile away, their wealth cycling through the economy. You've carried grain to market, your family's survival tied to children born of sanctioned sex, the church's rules shaping the labor that sustained your world. The physical toll of these beliefs was profound, desire restrained by fear of sin or punishment. A couple, abstaining during Lent, waited weeks, their straw bed a place of discipline, their bodies tense with unfulfilled longing. A woman, barren after years, walked 5 miles to a shrine in 2 hours, her body aching, her prayers desperate for a child. Men, confessing lust in church a half-mile away, fasted, their hunger a penance for desire. You've felt this strain, your body craving closeness, your soul fearing judgment, each act a balance of need and restraint. The church's rules, though meant to purify, left marks, exhaustion, guilt, or shame. Your life a testament to the cost of living under divine scrutiny. Culturally, these beliefs shaped identity, sex a marker of piety or deviance. A chaste wife, walking to church, was honored, her virtue a shield for her family. A man, discreet in his desires, maintained status, his lapses confessed lightly. Those who strayed, adulterers, prostitutes, or the accused, were outcasts, their lives marked by whispers at markets a mile away. The church's teachings, rooted in Augustine's view of lust as a taint, made every desire a moral battle, your heart wrestling with sermons heard in church. These cultural norms, though restrictive, gave meaning, framing life as a journey towards salvation, each act a step in God's plan, your identity tied to your adherence to divine will. Modern parallels reflect these medieval attitudes, our views on sexuality shaped by their legacy. The emphasis on marriage as a sacred bond echoes in debates over family values, where procreation remains a cultural ideal, though now less tied to religion. A couple today, planning a family, might feel societal pressure to marry, their choices a faint echo of medieval duties. The stigma of non-normative sexuality, once sodomy, now broader identities, persists in some circles, rooted in the Church's ancient condemnations. You've seen this in modern laws, debates over marriage or rights mirroring the Church's control, a reminder that medieval beliefs linger in our moral frameworks, our steps through life still shaped by their shadow. Gender roles too carry medieval echoes, women's sexuality still scrutinized more harshly. A woman today, judged for her choices, faces echoes of the medieval wife, her chastity once guarded by village gossip, now by social media. Men, though less judged, navigate expectations of restraint, their privilege a remnant of feudal hierarchies. You've felt this in modern norms, where women's clothing or behavior draws comment, their freedom curtailed by old ideas of honor. The Church's double standard, men's sins forgiven, women's condemned. Lives in wage gaps or societal biases, our world still wrestling with the power dynamics that governed medieval beds. The tension between desire and restraint persists, our culture balancing freedom with morality. Medieval couples abstaining for Lent mirror modern debates over abstinence or consent, where personal choice clashes with societal norms. The Church's fear of lust, preached a mile away, echoes in discussions of sexual education, where pleasure is debated as right or risk. You've seen this in modern struggles, your choices shaped by a culture that, like the medieval village, watches and judges. Its norms a softer but present force. The Church's legacy, though diluted, shapes our laws, our values, and our battles over body and soul. Your life a bridge between past and present. The resilience of medieval people, navigating desire under divine scrutiny, was profound. You, the peasant praying for a child, the merchant confessing a lapse, or the noblewoman bearing heirs, faced rules that bound your body but not your spirit. Your heart, defying shame, sought love or comfort, your steps to church or bed, a testament to human will. History names kings or saints, but your quiet defiance, loving despite fear, desiring despite doctrine, wove the fabric of society. We honor you, the nameless who balanced duty and passion, your courage a spark in our own choices, your legacy a reminder to embrace desire with care and defiance. These beliefs left a lasting mark, shaping a society where sex was both sacred and perilous. Your acts, whether in a hut or castle, built families, fueled economies, and defied sin, each one a thread in the medieval tapestry. The church's rules, the community's gossip, and the law's punishments made every desire a risk, your life a delicate dance of faith and flesh. Today, we navigate freer paths, but your struggles linger in our debates, our norms, our hearts. Your legacy is the strength to face judgment, the will to love despite fear, each step a victory over constraint. Let the weight of those rules lift now, your story told, your passion honored. As night falls, the village glows faintly, the hearth's fire a beacon of warmth. The beliefs about sex, procreation, sin, hierarchy shaped your every act, their rules a weight as real as the straw beneath you. Your life, a weave of duty and desire, carried your world forward, your resilience a quiet triumph. Rest now, the stars above a witness to your strength, your heart a flame that lit the way for others. Your legacy lives in our choices, our struggles, our steps through a world still shaped by the tension between body and soul, guiding us gently into the peace of a new dawn.